Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So, the topic for today's class is, anybody saw the topic on the WhatsApp group or email? Seeing the deities with a spiritual vision. So that's the topic. And, this is I think the 6th Prabhupada class that we are seeing. And, the format of this class, those who are coming here first time, is that, yeah, thanks. So the format of the Prabhupada class, for those who are coming first time for one of these classes, is that we try to see what was Prabhupada's instructions through the lens of Prabhupada disciples. So as we know, Prabhupada came to the West in when did he come to the West? When did he land in America? Which year? 65. And when did Prabhupada leave the planet? 77. Okay. So that means Prabhupada was in the West, or he was actively preaching from 1965 to 1977. And during this relatively short span of time, Prabhupada established ISKCON and he built 108 temples, which is, I always see that as such a great achievement. It's even to maintain, I always say, even to maintain one temple, there's so much effort that we have to put, the temple management has to put. But Prabhupada built 108 temples. And so in this short span, he also touched the lives of many, many people in a very deep and impactful way. And while he impacted those people, he was also trying to train them how to be pure devotees. So, we unfortunately don't have Prabhupada amidst us in person, but we have his instructions. And as we know, there are two ways to serve the spiritual master. There is the Vani Seva, and then there is the Vapu Seva. The Vapu Seva is serving the spiritual master physically. So if spiritual master comes to our house, we give him prasadam, we make sure he's well situated. That is Vapu Seva. And we don't have the opportunity because Prabhupada has already left the planet. But the Vani Seva is eternal. And Vani Seva means following the instructions of the spiritual master. There is once a reporter asked Prabhupada, what will happen to the movement when you will die? And Prabhupada, without skipping a beat, he said, I will never die. I'll live forever in my books. And he'll live forever in his instructions. So that means still we have that opportunity to serve him by following his instructions. And so as I was saying, even though we don't have Prabhupada in person, we have his instructions, we have his books, and very valuably, we have Prabhupada memories. Prabhupada memories are the lens through which Prabhupada disciples saw Prabhupada. And these lenses are very important to us. Why is that? Because, so in psychology, there is this concept of subjective reality versus objective reality. Has anyone heard of this concept? Subjective reality versus objective reality? Anybody heard? No? You have heard? Yeah.
Objective reality is like what it is as presented in actuality, versus subjective reality is through your own biases and perceptions.
Exactly. So like Anirudh.
Yeah.
Like Anirudh Prabhu said, objective reality is what it actually is, the truth. And subjective reality is how we see it. So for example, the grass outside is green. That is the objective reality. That is the truth. But if I was wearing a glasses which was rose tinted, I would say that the grass is rose in color. while in reality it is green. So, because of our material conditioning and the modes of material nature we read in the Bhagavad Gita, we cannot perceive truth as it is because we are covered by ignorance, we are covered by Maya. And through these lens of these Prabhupada disciples, we can start to see the objective reality better. We can get out of a subject reality. We can try to see truth as it is. So that's why these instructions are very powerful, these memories are very powerful. And additionally, they are also powerful because all these disciples that we'll see today have sacrificed immensely in their lives to the service of the mission. So when they give instructions, it is very, very powerful. And aside from that, they're quoting Srila Prabhupada, so it's already very powerful in that sense. So now, having known what's the general format of this class, we are going to see various Prabhupada memories, various Prabhupada disciples sharing what they saw of Prabhupada, sharing what they heard from Prabhupada. Today's specific topic, so when you go to YouTube, you will see there is more than probably 100, 150 hours of Prabhupada memories. So if you go to YouTube, there is a vast amount of Prabhupada memories. Because as I told you, Prabhupada deeply touched many thousands of people during his lifetime. So, like if somebody were to start looking through this Prabhupada memories, it will take a long time. So what we started doing in our format is we focus on a specific topic. Specific instructions that Prabhupada gave on a specific topic. And what eyes should we see the Lord? And with what eyes and with what feelings should we serve the Lord? So that's why that's another very important reason. Another reason is our deities have come here very recently. They came February of last year. And I always say, Anusiya Mataji, they have come from very far away. They came from Mayapur, where the weather was different, the climate was different, the people were different. And they have come amidst this foreign place, amidst foreign people. And I always say, what can we do to make them feel at home? So that's another way why it is important. And the other reason why it's important is, as we will be seeing more through these videos, that for any temple community, the center of the temple community is actually the presiding deities. So for all the families and all the people who are associated with a particular temple, at the end of the day, the CEO or the boss, so to say, is the deities. And so our boss is Sri Sri Nitai Gaur Chandra, Sri Sri Radha Sharad Bihari, and Jagannath Baldev Subhadra. So they are the center of our lives. So through these videos, these will reinforce our faith and also help us see the objective reality, how we should see the deities. So now, having given a little bit of a warm-up of what we can expect from the class, first video we'll see of Tamal Krishna Maharaj. He was a one of the biggest servants. He was the right-hand man of Srila Prabhupada. He did many important services in ISKCON. So this memory in specific is around 1969, 1970, when Prabhupada was just starting the London temple. As you know, Prabhupada had a big influence on the Beatles. George Harrison actively joined the movement. So this is just when this was starting to take shape. So this is at the very early stages, so they still did not have deities. And this memory talks about how they got the Radha Landaneshwar deities. So we'll hear from Tamal Krishna Maharaj. Take the video. The audio. Sorry. Go ahead. It's not coming. No, audio is not. Wait. ahead.
It's another interesting negotiation. Right. In London, of course, that was another interesting negotiation. Prabhupada told us, I got to London in September of 1969, and by that time, Prabhupada was getting ready to get the place, Bari Place, 7 Bari Place. And what is a temple without deities? So Prabhupada gave us the instruction that you have to install Radha Krishna deities. But he didn't order the deities, and we didn't have any deities. He just said, such and such, December so-and-so was the day of the opening, and you have to have Radha Krishna deities. So we, started to go. It's like trying to find a needle in a haystack. How are you supposed to find Radha and Krishna in London? We just started to ask anyone and everyone. It was like a national alarm. Anyone knowing the whereabouts of Radha and Krishna, please phone such and such number. And that was the number of Mukunda's wife, Janaki. So, well, it went, week after week went by, and Prabhupada calls us all, where are the deities? And we said, we don't know where Radha and Krishna are. Prabhupada said, we have to have deities. So finally, miraculously, when we were practically giving up, we get this phone call. Janaki gets a phone call. Someone says, we have Radha Krishna deities. So immediately she informed Mukunda, and Mukunda and I went down to this man's house. And the man took us to his study, and he said, I have some Radha Krishna marble deities. Would you like to look at them? So, we'd like to look at them, we were ready to jump out of our skins, practically. Sure we wanted to look at them. And he took off the cloth, and, we just offered our obeisances, because that was Radha Vishwar. So we said, they're beautiful, they're so beautiful. And they were beautiful. He said, well, I'm considering that I may be willing to give them to your temple. So we said, well, we have to, could we bring our spiritual master to see them? He said, yes, you could do so. So we raced out. We went to a phone booth. I remember we called immediately to Prabhupada's apartment. Prabhupada was living near Regent's Park, very nice apartment. And we called up and he was resting, so we decided just to go over there. We went in and we told Prabhupada, we found Radha Krishna. So Prabhupada immediately said, take me, I want to see them. So we had a van, we used to have a van. And it was Prabhupada and Kunda, Shamsundar, and myself, and Gurudas came in the van and we went in. And by that time it was the early evening, Prabhupada came in. He started to talk with this Indian gentleman, very friendly way. The man said that these deities were ordered already for society, but somehow or other things had not worked out, there was some difficulty, and they could not use the deity. So Prabhupada would just ignore the point, and he just kept asking me, where are you from? How are you? How's your wife? He made the man bring his wife in, bring the children in. Prabhupada, gave his blessings to everyone, just talking. And finally the man, said, Swamiji, don't you want to see the deities? And Prabhupada said, yes, we can see the deities. It was just so nonchalant, as if he was not even interested. So, he said, please, I want to show them to you. So he took the man took Prabhupada over, and he showed him the deities. And Prabhupada looked and said, And he just turned around and walked and sat down on the sofa. So the man said, Swamiji, what do you think? Can you use the deity? Prabhupada said, they looked like they may be used. He said, well, I'm thinking I can give them to you. Prabhupada said, yes, we could accept them. And he said, he asked me, go and see how heavy the deity is. So I went over and Shamsundar went over and I tilted rather than and I said, not very heavy. And she was heavy, but I said, not very heavy. Shamsundar had Krishna. Prabhupada said, all right, we'll take them now. He said, pick them up, and then the man said, wait, Swamiji, wait a moment. I think maybe he had an idea of recovering some of the cost. I don't know what he had in mind. He said, wait. And he said, no, there's no problem. It's not heavy. These are American boys. They're very strong. And we carried the deities out, and the man was just protesting, Swamiji, what, 1 minute? And we walked right out to the van, and brought Radha Krishna, put them in. Prabhupada sat down in the seat next to the driver's seat, and he said, I'll take care of the deities, we'll be in touch with you. And then the man just, the whole family was out there, and they were just like this. And Prabhupada said, okay, let's drive. So we drove off, and when we got around the corner, Prabhupada said, stop the car. And then we stopped the van, and Prabhupada said, take the cloth off the deities. We took the deities, and Prabhupada just started to offer prayers with tears in his eyes, and he started to sing the prayers for Brahma Samhita. He said, Krishna has now appeared in London. Krishna was adored, and even
So, that's a very interesting story on how they got the deities in London. And towards the end is the essence of the story. Like, Prabhupada said, now Radha and Krishna have appeared in London. And that's important. Like, the deities, they just don't, it's not randomly they just appear out of thin air or something. Unless the deity himself desires to come, there won't be any deities. It is the desire of the deities. Unless the deity wishes that I want to be here, how much ever we can try. In fact, as Mataji recounts the story of how these deities came, and there was such a climactic scene at the airport. And similarly, if you look at any temple, and if you look at the history of how those deities came, there is always a huge story behind it. Even like Srila Prabhu was telling, the deities in Brooklyn Temple, these were actually the deities that were worshipped by Vrajranath, the grandson of Krishna. So these are basically 5,000 years old, almost, right? So similarly, any deity that we pick, there is always a story. And the deities come because the deity wishes to come. It's not like, oh, we'll just force and buy something. I just paid $10,000 in Jaipur and I got the deities. No, unless the deity really desires to come, there will be some or the other problem that you won't be able to get the deity. So this story shows, the deities here that we have, Sri Nitai Gaurchandra, they came here because they desired to be here. So the next pastime that I want to share is from Indradyumna Maharaj, and this is in France. So this is Radha Parisheswar, and let's hear what he has to say.
In France several times. Prabhupada visited us in France several times. On one visit, 1973-74, he came to install Radha Parisheshwara. And during the installation ceremony, it's a very simple installation ceremony, we had Radha and Krishna in two big buckets. We did the installation ceremony like that, and I was standing next to the Vyasa-san, and as they were bathing Srimati Radharani, she had a little, the color of the marble was kind of a deep, rose color here in her face, right in her cheek. And Prabhupada thought that it was just something from the Abhishek, maybe the ghee mixed with some color or turmeric or something. And I remember I was looking at the installation, watching the installation, and then Prabhupada got up off his Vyasa-san. He was walking with so much concern and so much care and love towards the deity, Radharani. When he got up very close to her, he folded his hands and then he went like this on her face. He thought it was something could be removed, but it was the color of the marble. There's so much. And I was watching and I was thinking, Prabhupada, he doesn't see the deity as marble. He's actually seeing that Radharani is there. And he's treating him with so much love and devotion. Remember how careful he is. And for me, just that one incident convinced me so much about deity worship. Like the pujaris pray before they do the puja. My dear Lord, you are not a statue. You are directly the son of Maharaj. Although I didn't know that quote at that time, Prabhupada's just his intimate dealings with the deity convinced me the deity is not stone, it's actually Krishna, actually Radha. Like he said when he installed a little small Radha Krishna in Los Angeles, he said, if you see these deities as brass, they'll remain brass to you forever. But if you follow the rules and regulations of Scripture and you worship it with love and devotion, he said, one day these deities will speak to you. So like this, Prabhupada did so many great things around the world, so monumental achievements. But because he was a pure devotee, the little things he did were also wonderful. Like Krishna is greater than the greatest and smaller than the smallest. So his pure devotee, by the Lord's grace, is able to do huge things. But even the small things he does, because they're imbued with pure devotion to the Lord, they're also very significant and very endearing and captivating. So like when Prabhupada would play cards on us, the way he would move his fingers and the way he would chant, this is just always captivating for me. He was doing it in pure devotion.
So this talks about how to see the deities. We just talked about the subjective reality versus objective reality. As Indradyumna Maharaj was saying, if we truly, with full sincerity, serve the deities, then one day the deities have to talk to you. Like they will be forced by your love and devotion. And this is often the reciprocation that exists between the deities and the devotees. And recently when we had the birthday ceremony of Sri Sri Nitai Gaur Chandra in February, Mataji was recounting some of the stories, how these deities have reciprocated with devotees. She was sharing about this devotee who was ready to commit suicide and then came to our temple, and that made to change her mind. So we do see, and then we shared other stories. Even I shared my own personal story with me trying to catch my flight to my wedding, which I wasn't sure. So, we shared like 4 or 5 different stories. So that means the Lord is actually present there and is reciprocating. It's the sincerity and the faith that we should have, that the Lord is present. And if we serve the Lord, then we will see those miracles happen. There was one story of Shyam Sundar Prabhu, where, they were serving, every day they were feeding hundreds of people in their programs. This was during the early days of ISKCON. And they almost had no money to pay the rent. But they were really counting on Krishna. So one fine morning, they were outside walking to do their japa, and $100 bills just flew in the air. And so Mataji, it was Malati Mataji and Shyam Sundar Prabhu, they started collecting those $100 bills. Like from where did that come? It just came randomly. And when they calculated how much money they had exactly the amount to pay the rent. So these are various, and like our temple, we told 4 or 5 stories, but any other temple, like where the deities are served properly. Now that's the important point. Where the deities are taken care properly, where the deities are served properly. Another story I'll say of like New York, of Radhanath Maharaj. In New York, the place that they were staying, the Bhakti Center actually, Bhakti Center, during COVID time, they didn't have money to pay the mortgage. So they went to Radhanath Maharaj and asked that, Maharaj, like, what should we do? Like, there is barely any money left. Maharaj said, whatever is left, with that, triple the deity service. Whatever deity service you're doing, triple it. Within 6 months, they had enough money to pay the mortgage. So this shows the reciprocation of the deities. Like if sincerely, with sincerity, and with love and devotion, if we serve the deities have to reciprocate. Shyam Sundar Prabhu says they have to. If you stick your neck out for Krishna, Krishna has to reciprocate. So So as we do the different services, so obviously this puts a lot of weight on the pujaris to do an excellent deity service. But even aside from that, all the other devotees that are helping in those supporting services, like making the garlands, making the sweets, cooking the prasadam, cooking the bhoga today, or even cleaning the temple, they can have that similar mood that, Krishna or Nitai Gaurchandra is directly watching your service. And to the sincerity with which you will do the service, with that amount, Sri Nitai Gaurchandra will actually reciprocate, and they have already done. We already have proof that their lordships are there as you're looking at the altar. So now we'll look at Rukmini Mataji. This is a very, very nice pastime. So let's hear it.
A very high standard of deity worship. It was very beautiful, and it really didn't exist anywhere else in the society. And so coming to Boston, where they didn't have this nice standard, and trying to introduce that from what I'd seen in Los Angeles was very difficult. So I had this dream that all of the devotees in the temple were lying on the floor, and they were all saying, because this is sort of what I was up against there. They were lying on the floor and they were saying, in New York we do it like this, well in Boston we do it like this, well in Montreal we do it like this, but everyone was just lying on the floor. And then the curtains closed and the deities were gone. So I was very upset by this dream. I was sort of traumatized by this dream. And I wrote a letter to Prabhupada saying, I think we've been very negligent in our standard of deity worship, and now I had this dream that the deities disappeared, and I know that you said that without bhava, deity worship is just like idol worship. So it was sort of a letter full of lamentation on this point. And so how our deity worship must be just so unacceptable. So he wrote a very beautiful letter back saying that it was really a very, very pragmatic letter. He was just listing many, many, many items of cleanliness. Keeping the altar clean, bathing, keeping your fingernails short, many, many items of cleanliness. He said, all of these things, follow all of these things, and then the bhava will come. And he said that it is a blessing to you, that it was a great blessing to you that Krishna has warned you. So never be negligent, always be careful. So that was very, very nice. That's kind of the background of that letter.
That's a very powerful pastime. And there are like various things we can talk about this one pastime, but I'll point out two things. One thing is, if the deity is not worshipped to the right standard, then the spirit of the deity leaves that temple. And this has happened in temples around the world. Like if the deity worship is negligent, if the deities are not well taken care of, because when you do the pran pratishtha, which is when you invoke the life force into the deities, you're calling the Lord to be situated in the deities. That's how this material element becomes a spiritual element, because of this whole ceremony. But in the same way, how the Lord manifests in this material element, similarly, if the deity worship is negligent, if especially the pujaris, but even the other devotees in the community are not doing deity worship in the right way, the deities can actually leave that temple and go away. And this has happened in many temples. And what happens is when the deities start to go away, that community starts to dwindle. You start to see a lot of quarrel in that community. And then slowly that community falls apart. Because as I said, the center of the community is the deities. So as long as the deity worship is set to a high standard, is done correctly, then the community stays healthy. But when the deity leaves, so that's exactly the dream of Rukmini Mataji. Like, Rukmini Mataji in the dream saw that the deities were gone. That means that the spirit had left. And then the second thing that Mataji mentions is this concept of following the rules and regulations, the Vaidhi Bhakti. So as we know, there is primarily two types of bhakti. There is Vaidhi Bhakti, which is following the rules and regulations. And then there is Bhav Bhakti or Raganuga Bhakti, which is spontaneous love for Krishna. The thing is, to reach to Bhav Bhakti, as Mataji was saying, you have to go through Vaidhi Bhakti, which Prabhupada emphasized again and again and again. In his books, he keeps emphasizing this point. In fact, anybody reads by other acharyas also, but Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in Madhurya Kadambini emphasizes this point heavily, that without Vaidhi Bhakti, one cannot get Bhav Bhakti. There is no way. So, Mataji mentions, to get to that stage where we can have spontaneous love for the deities, we have to heavily follow the rules and regulations. And that's why Prabhupada sent her a very long letter stating all the different rules of the deity worship, like how one should be clean, how one should conduct deity worship. So those are two very key takeaways for me when I looked at this memory. So now we will look at Radhanath Maharaj and hear his experience.
So every day after that they would drive on kind of highway, we would drive on with a Volkswagen. And then there was Janmashtami. And I remember Janmashtami night, Radha Vrindavan Chandra was being moved into a new temple in which the devotees had just built. And there was about a month's worth of work to be done that day. As often devotees' time schedules create. So the devotees were working frantically because at a certain hour Prabhupada was going to come to see the deities Radha Vrindavan Chandra in the new temple. So just as Prabhupada was walking in one door, ladders and buckets were running out, hope you dry your own door. And when Prabhupada came, everything was perfect, everything was complete. But the walls had just been painted. We were all praying that Prabhupada wouldn't touch the walls. So he came in and he saw the beauty of Radha Vrindavan Chandra. And he was looking at them. And he actually had tears in his eyes as he was just glancing upon the beauty of Radha Vrindavan Chandra. And the wonderful worship that the devotees were offering. And Srila Prabhupada spoke to us. And he said that your Radha Vrindavan Chandra are most beautiful. They have appeared before you just like the most beautiful American boy and girl, just to attract your hearts. And then he said your worship is very beautiful. He said, but be very careful. There are two paths on the path of bhakti. There is Pancharatra Dividi and there is Bhava Karma. Pancharatra Dividi means worshipping the deity with great devotion and performing all services for the pleasure of the deity. And Bhava Karma means hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord. He said they are like two rails on the same train track. They must go together. He said, if you are not attentively hearing Srimad Bhagavatam and chanting the holy names every day, he said, the day will come when you look at Radha Vrindavan Chandra and you will think, why has my Guru Maharaj left me with this burden? His words seared into our hearts. And I remember from that day on, the sadhana of the devotees at Vrindavan was so incredibly strict. So strict. Devotees were getting up at 2 in the morning to chant their rounds. Everyone was there for Srimad Bhagavatam class. How can I inspire that? And after the kirtan,
So that's another very, very heavy instruction. And it goes back to the whole sadhana aspect of the community and the pujaris who are involved in doing deity worship. If our sadhana is not to the right standard, so what do we mean by sadhana? So sadhana means our daily chanting and our daily hearing. So those who are initiated, we take a vow to chant 16 rounds. And those who don't take initiation, they make a personal vow. Like, I want to chant 4 rounds, I want to chant 8 rounds. And accordingly, they keep up to the rounds. And those who don't have taken initiation, they can stay at their number, but what is important is, whatever round they're chanting, they chant with full sincerity and focus. I know, like, in this modern day and age, it gets very hard to focus with so many distractions. But we force ourselves to take that time out to chant nicely. How much ever rounds we have chosen, 4, 8, or anything in between 0 to 16. We take that time out. And for the pujari especially, since we have taken initiation, we make a vow to chant 16 rounds. So those 16 rounds we chant to the highest degree. And along with that, we regularly hear classes so that we are always set in the right mood. And as Radhanath Maharaj is saying, when the mood of the community is not correct, or when the mood of the pujaris are not correct, although, it's such a fortune to serve the deities. Like, it is a great fortune. Like, in Harrisburg, we have 50,000 people. And how many people have the opportunity to serve these deities? Only the handful that's present in this room. There's 50,000 people, and out of that, maybe 100 or 200 max come to our temple and have the opportunity to serve Nitai Gaur Chandra. So it is a great, great fortune. And if you look more globally, I think now ISKCON has around like 2 million devotees or so out of 8 billion people. So you can calculate the percentage of how many people have the opportunity to serve the deities. So it is a great fortune to have the opportunity to serve the deities. But if our sadhana is not set correct, if our mood is not set correct, if we are not hearing regularly, if we are not chanting attentively, we will end up seeing our greatest fortune as a great burden. Because we are seeing it as a great fortune, and because we are sincerely trying to serve Nitai Gaur Chandra, he is reciprocating with us. And that's why all that magic happened over the last 1.5 years in multiple devotees' lives. Lucia Mataji keeps track of all of those in a notebook or in her phone, all the things, all the small things and all the big things that have happened because of the deities at our temple. So that means the deities are reciprocating. But if our mood is not set right, then we will see our greatest fortune as the greatest burden. I will just cover one more pastime, and this is from Yamuna Mataji. And this pastime is also regarding Radha Nandanishwara. And in this pastime we will get to see how Prabhupada reciprocated with the deities and how deities reciprocated with Prabhupada.
Like that. And in the course of moving the deities, each man took per deity. I was following. One of them knocked. The curtains were closed. We were behind adjusting the deities. And one of the persons, somehow or another, inadvertently knocked one of these columns with their elbow. And in as fast as an accident happens in an automobile going 70 miles an hour, everything slowed down into slow motion. And I remember watching this column go out with the speed of lightning. Srila Prabhupada moved all of the paraphernalia with his right hand off the bottom granite step, stepped up with his right foot on the first step, his left foot on the second step, grabbed one column, this huge column was at least 6 to 8 inches in diameter, with his right hand, and Radharani's hand with his left hand. And I saw on his brow little beads of perspiration, the first time I had ever seen him perspire. And this was such a chivalrous thing that Srila Prabhupada did that I understood what the rasa of chivalry was. And he had that in protecting Radharani. That's one example of Srila Prabhupada exhibiting a very personal rasa of Krishna, actually saving Radharani from disaster and exhibiting superhuman strength and the alacrity of the movement of mind. It couldn't have been faster.
So I just threw that bonus video to show the personal exchange between Prabhupada and Radha Nandanishwara. And again, these personal exchanges happen when you see with those eyes, when you see that the lordships are actually there. And when you have that faith, when you have that devotion, you have that exchange with the Lord. So, with that, those were the videos I had. I know that Anusuya Mataji is currently taking the deity training workshop with Nrsimha Kavacha Prabhu. And again, Nrsimha Kavacha Prabhu is also a Prabhupada disciple. And he is leading the deity ministry. And I just wanted, Mataji, if you wanted to share a few things from those trainings and also from the videos that you saw.
Trying to get this thing on. Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. Welcome, Srila Prabhupada. It's really an eye-opener to actually watch these videos about how the deities are actually the center of the community. And sometimes we tend to forget that, because we take things for granted. We come to the temple and we sing and dance, jump 5 feet, 6 feet in the air, and then take prasadam and then we go. But then we forget that sometimes the Lord is actually standing in a human form. It's actually real. I started doing deity service since 1996. My husband and I, both of us, we're very fortunate to be engaged for almost 30 years doing deity service. And in my... Is it me? No, okay. And in my service, there's so much that you learn and you watch. The part that, was it Indradunya Swami that said about the deity leaving?
Rukmini Mataji.
Rukmini Mataji. Wow, that was amazing. Rukmini Mataji, the Prabhupada disciple, she joined this company, she was 16 years of age. She got initiated when she was 16 years of age. She was very, very young. She was the youngest, actually. And how many of you actually know or have heard of a temple where the deity left? Like they actually left the temple. No, this is like they leave and they never come back because we haven't taken care of them. No one have experienced that? It happened. Really. I'm not going to mention one of the temples, but my husband and I are very aware of it. There was one temple that could not take care of a Radha Krishna deity, and very cute deities. They're like foot, you know. I used to dress them for about 10 years. And for some reason, due to unforeseen whatever, they couldn't take care of the deities. And they started cutting back on the services. You know, they started cutting back from... See, Prabhupada says when you start deity service, you should stay at that level. You cannot go up. I mean, you cannot go down. You start low, you can go up. You cannot go up and come down. It just doesn't work that way. And so that happened in this particular temple. And I remember hearing about this deity wanting to be taken from the temple, and I was livid because I used to dress them. Very, very dear to me. And they just couldn't get more help, so they started decreasing and decreasing and decreasing and decreasing. And next thing we know, see, Krishna does things in a very indirect and direct way. We think that, okay, they can't take up the deities, so the deities leave, so as a case closed. No, what happens is the Lord will work through his devotees to get them sent to another temple where they'll get proper service. So that's what happened to those deities. They were asked, the Lord made the arrangement saying, they can't take care of me here, I'm a burden. So those deities were sent to Dallas. I won't mention the name, but they were sent to Dallas. And every time my kids go to Dallas, I always ask my girls, please take a picture of them and show me. They were very dear to me. Very dear to me. Sweet, sweet, sweet deities. The second set of deities, also from the same temple, they couldn't take care. Down, 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 down. And this deity was taken care of by a Prabhupada disciple for 45 years. After she left her body, they couldn't take care of her. Same thing happened. You know, we cannot take care, they become a burden. So Krishna says, I'm a burden to this devotee, so I'm going to move. And they left. They actually left. I personally witnessed it. And another deity from another temple, Sitaram Lakshman. You know that, yeah, same thing happened. They couldn't take care of these deities, they were a burden. Because devotees couldn't step up. Devotees were not willing to sacrifice. They were not willing to go above and beyond. They were not willing to do what it takes to take care of the deities. Because why? Because Prabhupada says, because the deities were not the center of their lives. The deities were not the center of the temple. When the deities are not the center of our lives in the temple, they will leave. And they'll make arrangements. And they'll say tata bye bye. And that's what happened to the Sitaram Lakshman deity. They went from one temple in US and went to another temple in New Jersey. It happens. It's not a fairy tale. It's not a story. It happens because then we ask, why does Krishna leave? Because he doesn't want to be a burden. If we treat and take the deity service as a burden, he'll say, I'm being a pain to them. I'm a burden, so let me just leave. Why give them burden? See, because what happens is that when we start not serving the deities, you know, in any shape or form, whether it's cooking, cleaning, garland making, sweet making, you know, pujari service, whatever it is, if we do not do it properly, and we have the mood of, no, I cannot commit because you're in my way of my life, then the Lord will say, okay, why should I be in the way of your life? I'll go someplace where they will take care of me. That's how Krishna is. It really happened. So, what Mother Rukmini was saying is not that it never happened. It has happened. The deities will leave. And the deities will not leave if we remind ourselves that the deities, like you said, which I really like that term, the CEO, the deities are the CEO of this temple. We are privileged. There was a very nice quote by Radhanath Swami where he says, service is a privilege. It's not an inconvenience. It's not a burden. It's a privilege. There are so many souls that don't have the opportunity to do what we do. The reason we just do it like that because we have taken it for granted. Yeah, I clean. Big deal. Yeah, I cook. Another day. Yeah, I make the garlands. Another day. We take it for granted. We don't see, oh my God, Krishna is giving me the service. It's a privilege. I'm the quote-unquote the chosen one to do the service for the Lord. And the more we have that mood of putting the deities in the center of our lives, Krishna will not leave. If we put ourselves the center and Krishna the secondary, tata bye bye. It will actually happen. Absolutely. And Mother Rukmini was mentioning about a dream that she had. It reminded me of a dream that I had when I was serving in Gitanagari. I was the pujari for I'm trying to think. I think they were Nitai Gaurasundar. That's what they were called. They were named by Satsrup Maharaj. I remember that. And there was me and one of the devotees dressing the deities. That was our service, morning and night. And whenever I would dress them the next morning or the evening, I always noticed that the pins on the turban was poking through the base into their heads, and I used to get very disturbed. My goodness, this is like not good. He kept telling this devotee, please, when you put the pagadi, the turban on the deities, don't put the pin too much. You have to have a science to it. Somehow she wasn't listening. And I remember very clearly one night I had a dream and I woke up scared. The same deity, Nitai Gaurasundar, they were like I think 10 inch or something in Gitanagari. They appeared in the dream and they were holding their head. They took off the turban, they were holding their head and they were crying, and I saw blood coming down their head in this dream. And they were crying, I'm in pain. I woke up next morning. And I told the head pujari, I said, we gotta train this pujari, you not take her off the altar. Because the deities are really in pain. They took her off the altar because the deities were in pain. Poking needles in the head, I don't think we would like it, but that's how it was. So that shows that these deities are real. They're humans. They're human, they're not dolls, They're humans, they're real, they exist. To the extent that we see them, that they exist, to that extent they will reciprocate with us. If we see them as murtis, as idols, the Lord is not there, then they won't reciprocate with us. They'll just stand there and they'll look like idols to us because we cannot reciprocate. But to the extent that we keep on serving and serving and serving and serving and serving, to that extent they will keep the spiritual, the vision. They will show themselves, I'm real. I'll tell you another pastime. I was dressing Lalita Vishaka in Gitanagari, and this was my night dressing service, and I got so many deity stories. This is one of them. And I was rushing to dress them that evening, not the right consciousness. When you go on the altar, you have to be in a very meditative, prayerful mood. You can't rush in mode of passion and ignorance. But I was rushing because I was late, because I had to come back from work and jump in the shower and take a bath and then, and all that stuff and get the altar. So I was dressing Lalita, and out of the blue as I was dressing her, she was, I think 2 feet? Lalita Vishaka was about 2 feet or something like that. So their pins were like about, 2.5, 3 inches long, And I was rushing and taking her dupatta off her head, and all of a sudden this 2-inch needle went through my skin, poked my finger, my wrist, and it wouldn't come out. And I'm like getting hysterical. You know, will the spin come out of my hand? And interestingly, there was no blood, but it wouldn't come out. And I was like trying to twist it to come out, and it was hurting more, and it wouldn't come out. I said, okay, Lalita, I'm very sorry I'm late. I'm so sorry that I rushed to dress you. Please forgive me. It came out. It just came out. And I said to myself, I'm not messing with the gopis again. They're intense, you know. So the deities are real. They're real. They're not dolls. They're real. And yes, Mother Rukmini is right. We have to have the vision, the understanding, and the belief that the deities of the temple is the CEO. They are the center of our lives, our meditation, our worship, everything. And the more we do and have that consciousness, and the more we serve and serve and serve and serve and serve, and we never think that they are a burden. You know, we should never think, oh my God, Krishna, I'm serving you extras, you're being a pain to me, I can't make time for you. You know, imagine if we tell our child, you know, if I tell my girls, you know, Raja, Mano, I don't have time for you, I cannot make time, so go figure life out. What will they think? Mom doesn't love me. I'm a burden. Dad has no time for me. And they will leave, they'll run away. Right? When kids, we know into today's stage, when kids don't get the attention they need, they run away from home. Same thing with Krishna. If we don't give them the attention and we say that they are a burden to us and we cannot make time because they're interfering in our lives. Actually, I remember one devotee was telling me one time, years ago, you know, on Suya, you know, the deity schedule is interfering in my life. Prabhupada disciples said, they are meant to interfere in your life. It's like Gaurachandra ki jai, Dr. Vasubhadra ki jai. So we have to really get the consciousness that, okay, you know, I'm going to give my all. I'm going to sacrifice. I'm going to serve and serve and serve. I'm going to do what I can. I'm going to step up. I'm going to make sure that the Lord is not a burden. And I'm going to inconvenience myself to serve the Lord. Because it's a privilege. It's a privilege. But yes, Mother Rukmini's point is very real. The deities do leave. So if we don't want them to leave, we got to step up and make sure that we serve them with all our hearts. We give and give and give. Thank you for this wonderful topics, Jitamitra.
Actually, Mataji, like, you know, even there are some stories with me and Nitai Gaurchandra. Like, I remember there was one evening, I had this like huge fight in my family, and my mind it was such a big fight, like I got a headache, because it was very emotionally intense fight. And I came in the evening, and I just prayed to them, like, you know, what is this, like, you know, why is this happening? And what was shocking was, like, the headache was there throughout the whole day. In 15 minutes the headache went away, like it was like a magic. So, you know, when those small things happen, and when they happen often, it's not like one time, you get this faith, like they're actually there. They're so alive. And so one time I did make a prayer, like, you know, please don't leave this temple, because, you know, if you're gone, then where is our shelter? You know. So yeah, I just wanted to share that one.
And this is the reason why we got Nitai Gaurachandra, because Nitai Gaurachandra is very merciful. Lord Chaitanya is very, 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 very merciful. And actually, and why we chose Govinda Deities was because that was told by our GBC. Anuttama Prabhu, he says, get Gonatha deities, they're very merciful. That will help everybody to grow in their consciousness. And that's why we got Nitai Gaurachandra made in Mayapur. Yeah. And, they're very merciful. They're very, very merciful. And and I always say they love having devotees to come and sing for them, read to them, dance for them, talk to them, pray to them. They love it. They absolutely love when devotees come and visit them, just like that. They like companionship. They really, really do. Yeah, Haribol.
Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to the devotees present here. Thank you for the nice class. Like after a long time, I have heard a class that is gives me something from memories of Punya Temple, like hardcore classes. I will just quickly say, recently His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj left his body, and there were glorification sessions, long glorification sessions. I'm not sure how many devotees watched it, but we should really watch those videos. And our GBC, not our GBC, Revati Raman Prabhu, he is one of the executives, and he was sharing his memory of Maharaj. So he was telling that Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, wherever in any temple he goes, he will worship the deities in the Mangalarati. And but when he went to Tirupati temple, ISKCON Tirupati, he didn't go on that. Couple of times it happened, I guess, when during one visit, and Revati Raman Prabhu was like, why is Maharaj not going on that? So he asked Maharaj, why, what's the reason? So Maharaj said, there are gopis on the altar. Wow. I am afraid of the gopis. Yes, I'm afraid of the gopis too. I'm afraid of the gopis. That's what he said. So, when these kind of exalted devotees are so careful when dealing with the deities, it is very crucial for our Krishna consciousness that when we go in front of the deities, like we cannot just go anyhow. We have to follow certain things, really follow certain things.